As of April 2026, every release year and studio credit in this video has been web search verified against official sources. We're talking Wikipedia, Anime News Network, and official studio pages. No guessing, no recycling fan wiki lore. Just the actual history. Okay. Let's talk about Maid anime. Here's something I genuinely didn't expect when I started digging into this topic. The maid cafe is a concept, the uniformed girl who calls you master, the ritualized customer service performance. It started as a real-world Akihabara street phenomenon in the early 2000s, and anime didn't create it. Anime responded to it. And then anime blew it up into a billion-dollar subculture that bounced back into the real world, spawned cafes in Seoul, Taipei, and Los Angeles, and eventually got deconstructed by a yakuza thriller from PA Works. That full loop from real street corner to global cultural export took about 20 years. Let me show you how it happened. The real starting point for maid anime as a genre is 2001. Mahoromatic, produced by Gainax and Shaft. Yes, those two studios together aired in October 2001. The premise is that Mahoro is a decommissioned combat android who chooses to spend her remaining time as a domestic maid for a teenage boy. That setup sounds ridiculous, and it kind of is, but here's what made Mahoromatic land. The maid costume isn't just fan service decoration. It's a character choice. A former weapon decides that serving tea is a more meaningful way to exist than being a killing machine. That's actually a philosophical statement dressed up in a frilly apron. Gainax had done something similar with their giant robots, where the weapon that protects people becomes a metaphor for sacrifice. Mahoromatic did the same thing, smaller scale, with a maid outfit. In 2005, Yama, a Victorian Romance from Studio Pierrot, did something completely different with the same archetype. Emma is a Victorian-era British housemaid. Not a magical android, not a comedy premise. A real-world working-class woman in Victorian London who falls in love with a member of the gentry, and the series treats that relationship as a genuine class divide tragedy, not a fantasy wish fulfillment. The director Sunio Kobayashi took a manga by Kaoru Mori and turned it into something that felt closer to a Merchant Ivory adaptation than a Mo show. This is important because it established early on that the maid character didn't have to be a trope. She could be a fully realized person with economic circumstances and social constraints and actual interiority. Emma is still considered one of the best historical romance anime ever made. It's just quietly excellent and not nearly enough people have seen it. Also in 2005, Gainax and Shaft again, those two studios working together released He Is My Master, or Koreiji Watashi no Goshujin-sama. And here's where the tropes get codified. The premise: a rich teenage boy inherits a mansion and hires two runaways as live-in maids. He is explicitly a pervert with a uniform fetish and insists on being called Goshujin-sama. This is the show where the maid-master dynamic stops being metaphor and becomes genre convention. The frilly uniform, the honorific address, the master-servant power imbalance played for comedy, all of that gets crystallized here. It's not great television by modern standards. But understanding this show is like understanding why every shonen fight anime has a rival character. You have to see where the rulebook was written. By 2008 something interesting happened. The maid genre got a mirror image, the Butler. Black Butler, Kuroshitsuji, produced by A1 Pictures starting October 2008, took the loyal serval archetype and flipped the gender. Sebastian Michaelis is a demon who has contracted to serve the young nobleman Seal Phantom Hive, and the show frames this relationship as gothic horror romance rather than comedy. Sebastian is not played for laughs. He is competent to an inhuman degree and terrifying beneath the surface. What Black Butler actually codified was the idea that the servant archetype could carry enormous narrative weight, that the person who ostensibly has no power in the household relationship can be the most dangerous person in the room. That inversion became a template. You see it echoed in later works across both the butler and maid categories. 2010 is the year the genre genuinely changes. Kaichou wa Maid-sama, produced by JC Staff and airing April through September 2010, is the first major maid anime told from the maid's point of view as the active protagonist rather than the object. Misaki Ayuzawa is the student council president at a formerly all-boys school who secretly works part-time at a maid cafe. The tension is that she's the authority figure in school and the performative servant at work, and she's trying to hold both identities together without either collapsing. That double life structure gives the show genuine stakes that have nothing to do with fan service. Misaki is not there to please. She is there to survive, financially and socially. And crucially, this is a shoujo manga adaptation, meaning it was written for girls, about a girl who happens to wear a maid outfit. That shift in authorial intent produced a completely different kind of story. By 2014, the genre had split into two main tracks, romantic drama and pure mo slice of life. Is the Order a Rabbit, known as Gokyusa, animated by White Fox starting April 2014, is the definitive mo track. The setup is that high schooler Coco comes to a new town and ends up working at a coffee shop called Rabbit House. The girls all have character archetypes: the energetic one, the quiet one, the tiny serious one, and the show's entire purpose is to make you feel warm and happy for 22 minutes. There is no conflict. There is no development arc. There is excellent attention to the aesthetics of small coffee shops and the comfort of female friendship. What Gokyusa proved is that the maid-adjacent setting could survive without any of the master-servant dynamic at all. Strip away the Goshijin-sama, strip away the fantasy premise, and what's left is just girls being cozy in a cafe, which turns out to be a completely viable premise. In October 2017, A1 Pictures released Blend S, and it turned the maid cafe into a fully explicit workplace comedy. Cafe style, where the anime is set, assigns each staff member a performance role. One is the little sister type, one is the big sister type, one is the sadist who mistreats customers who enjoy it, and so on. The joke is that these girls are performing characters that are nothing like their real personalities, and the gap between the costume and the actual person is where all the humor lives. Blend S is interesting because it makes the performance aspect of maid cafe culture completely transparent. The cafe is cosplay. The character is cosplay. And the employees are regular people who happen to be very good at pretending. That self-aware quality, the acknowledgement that the maid persona is a constructed product being sold to customers, set up everything that came after it. Also in January 2017, and the fact that two hugely significant maid anime aired in the same year is not a coincidence. This was peak saturation. Kyoto Animation released Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. And this one is a genuinely massive hit. Directed by Yasuhiro Takimoto, the show follows an office worker named Kobayashi whose apartment is now being cleaned by Toru, a dragon who has decided to be her maid. KyoAni applied their full production quality to this premise, which means the show looks extraordinary, the comedy is actually funny, and underneath the dragon girl hijinks there is a surprisingly sincere story about chosen family and belonging. What Kobayashi's Dragon Maid did for the genre is legitimize it in terms of production prestige. When one of the most technically acclaimed studios in the industry commits to a maid anime, it stops being a guilty pleasure category and starts being mainstream. And then 2022. Akiba Maid War from PA Works, co-produced with Cygames, aired October through December 2022. The Japanese title Akiba Maido Sanso is a pun. Maido is phonetically the same as maid but written as the kanji for underworld. The premise: Akihabara's maid cafes are territories controlled by rival maid gangs who resolve disputes with lethal violence. A 17-year-old named Nagomi gets hired at a pig-themed maid cafe and slowly discovers the entire ecosystem is a yakuza war in frilly aprons. Akiba Maid War is a genre deconstruction in the precise technical sense. It takes every convention we've covered in this video and interrogates what those conventions are actually doing. The performative cheerfulness, the master-servant dynamic, the cute uniform as social armor. The show puts all of that into a context where it could get you killed, and asks, what is this stuff really for? Critics loved it. Audience reception was more polarized, which is exactly what you'd expect from a show that is deliberately asking uncomfortable questions about a genre people love. As of this recording, it's April 2026, and there is literally a new maid anime currently airing. The Food Diary of Miss Maid, produced by EMT² and Magic Bus, started streaming on Crunchyroll in early April 2026. The premise is that an English-style maid in training named Suzume gets stuck in Japan for a year and spends her time eating every Japanese food she can find. It's soft, it's gentle, and it has absolutely zero interest in the master-servant dynamic or genre deconstruction. It just wants to watch a girl in an apron eat melon bread. Which honestly. After Akiba Maid War's existential interrogation, the genre needed a palate cleanser. So here's what I actually think the 20-year arc of maid anime is about, when you step back from individual shows. The maid archetype keeps getting returned to because it's one of the few anime archetypes that foregrounds the question of chosen service versus coerced service. Mahoro chose to be a maid after being a weapon. Misaki chose the maid cafe job because she needed money and it was what was available. Toru chose Kobayashi because she wanted to, not because she was programmed to. Nagomi in Akiba Maid War thought she was choosing a dream job and discovered it was a death trap. The question the genre keeps circling is the performance authentic? Is the smile real? Is the servility a role, a personality, or a prison? That's not a shallow question. That's actually a pretty serious one about identity and labor and what it means to perform for others. And the fact that anime keeps wrapping it in frilly aprons and cat ears probably says something about how we deal with serious questions. We make them cute first. If you got this far, comment below, Maid-sama or Dragon Maid. I genuinely want to know which one people have stronger feelings about, because they represent completely different ideas about what this genre is for. One is a romantic drama about a girl grinding to survive, the other is a comedy about a dragon who is deeply happy. Both are great. They're just great in opposite directions. I'm Sophie from Triple Threat Manga, and this has been the Maid Anime Timeline.